All right, thank you. Thanks, Saeed, for joining us in short notice, and Chaz. So I'll go down and count down from three, two, one, so it's easy for the edit for the team. Let's get the ball rolling. Counting down from three, two, one. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this Edge session where we're going to talk about why edge computing is the next evolution of cloud. In this session with me, I'll have Saeed, who's the CEO of Zedata, and Charles, who's a lead solution engineer at VMware for retail and specific. As you probably heard in our keynote already, VMware is delivering, cross-cloud services for all applications across all types of private cloud data center at the edge. And this session is focused on where we're innovating at the edge and how we're going to make some announcements at the edge in this show. So quite exciting session. And I have both, actual announcements as well as some interesting use cases. As you know, most of the, some of the aspects we talk about are roadmap sessions. So they are expected to change. So a standard kind of disclaimer for you. So let me start with what's happening in the market. We see that the application deployments are accelerating. We see a lot of applications being built, but what's interesting is, at least in the last 18 months of what's been happening with the pandemic, is we're seeing more and more of these applications being built and deployed at the edge. The applications are becoming next generation storefronts for retailers as they figure out how to do socially intermediated transactions in an omni-channel retail experience. They're becoming automated, industrialized IoT for automation because manufacturers are trying to figure out how to do localized supply chains and not get compromised by global supply chain issues, and business processes in healthcare and in financials. All of that is changing, but driving application development at the edge. So the market is really kind of catching up, but there is no consistent way of solving this problem. You see that several players are coming together to solve for this because as the last decade of innovation happened in the cloud, the next decade is expected to happen at the edge. There are a lot of players moving in, several technology sectors, data center, private cloud, trying to move workloads and modernize and migrate them to the edge. Hardware manufacturers building different types of form factors for the edge. Hyperscale partners of ours are trying to build their IaaS and SaaS service and migrate them to the edge. But that's not just from the IT landscape, but also because at the edge, you have a big footprint of providers already from a telecommunications perspective, as well as network and services. They're also moving in, providing a lot of points of presence with high speed, low latency, building out new technology. At the same time, delivering content and network services at the edge. All of this is almost like taking your cloud data center assets, networking assets, and moving towards the edge. At the same time, there's a big growth in operational technology where the physical meets the digital. There's a lot of innovation on new types of physical devices that are being activated through industrialized IoT and all of that. So there's a lot going on at the edge, a lot of data being created, but at the same time, different players are trying to move into this from their own angle. Oh, I'll give you public cloud. No, let me give you a networking footprint. No, let me give you a OT technology. So it's kind of very disparate and very early adopters. I've had 100+ conversations with our customers. They are struggling as, seems like the edge is quite different. I've observed the early movers are spending 3 to 4 months refactoring, replatforming applications that they've built in the public cloud to just make it work at the edge. And what we're realizing with a handful of, bleeding edge customers, that applications they build just don't seem to scale, don't have the same model, don't have the same security, and they are struggling to kind of move those workloads effectively at the edge. At this point, I'd like to invite Saeed because, hey, Saeed is the CEO of Zedata, and they are one of the leading edge computing companies. According to Gartner, 2 years in a row, one of the top, edge computing vendors. So Saeed, welcome to VMworld. Super excited to have you here. I'd love to get your opinion outside in from not like VMware perspective as to why you think Edge is getting, hot and why is it so different?
Great, Munim. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Great to be here and to talk a little bit about Edge and what we've seen and learned so far. Maybe it's a little bit helpful to just introduce quickly the company and our focus area. So Zadida is a as you said, a startup. We're excited with the progress we've made. We've been as a company focusing on something called the distributed edge since the early days, meaning when you start doing edge computing in that border between physical and digital, as you mentioned. So, very touching OT environments, typically hard verticals like industrial, energy, automotive, etc. And what we do is we provide our customers with an orchestration solution to deploy, manage, secure applications in these environments. And to your point earlier, and as you list on this slide here, Edge is an extension of the cloud, but it is fundamentally a change as well of what we've seen and known so far of the cloud. So let me just stop here and see if you want to dig in specific areas.
Yeah, it's a great thing to say it's a continuation of cloud, but it's also quite different. What type of challenges from the application model itself you're seeing, Saeed? Then the security, the scalability, and resiliency. Like I believe. It's easy to say, I'm just going to pick up a workload and I'm going to throw it at the edge. We've learned as VMware over the last decade or so, that wasn't easy to take a data center workload and move to the cloud. There was a lot of rework required. I'm starting to see the same pattern. So love to hear from you, from your early customer adoption, what type of challenges they're facing, the application model, security, scalability.
Yeah, great question. So what we've seen, first of all, is what drives the deployments for our customers. It's actually bandwidth. It is the fact that data is generated or collected on-prem in these distributed environments. And as the customers adopt cloud computing, they're trying to figure out how to get the insights of that data connected back to their cloud infrastructure. That's typically the starting point of the conversation. And what is interesting about these verticals is a lot of these applications already exist there to generate this data. Think about SCADA applications in a factory floor. Today, they're controlling process. They're already storing a lot of data on some local drive. How do I analyze that data? How do I take that data and get it back to my broader data lake and my broader data strategy? An example in retail, video, surveillance. Today, there's a lot of video being stored already in every retail store, but it's used there probably to, go back and see if an incident happened or something else. But how can I turn that video data to change my engagement model with my customers and improve, et cetera. So that's usually where it starts with is I got data, it's either there or I want to start collecting it. I can't get it to the cloud. And how do I then move the data analytics and processing that I had in mind to run in the cloud and move and push that all the way to the edge? That's sort of the starting point. Now, when you do that, there's sort of three things that we typically see from our point of view. First of all, is the diversity of these applications, right? Video. We talked about video surveillance, SCADA application. We have customers that have specific data processing for well sites and oil and gas. You go to automotive and you're trying to update software on cars. You have different software to do that in a garage or dealer. So all of these are very different applications. Some of them are not even containerized yet. They are still running on Windows and sometimes very old versions of Windows as well, right? So that's sort of one very common thing we see. The second problem we see is security, where when you start putting little tiny servers who don't even often look like servers, but more like rugged, industrial PCs or gateways in these distributed environments, well, you have a whole new array of problems coming from cybersecurity point of view. You may be deploying in your customers' networks or your suppliers' networks or your partners' networks where you don't know if their network is secure. You don't know if the network is something you can trust. But also you don't even know if physically you can trust the location, right? Somebody could steal that node, take it with them and try to reverse engineer the data on the drives and from there figure out, proprietary information and further, exploit an attack. So you have to think about both the physical as well as the network security. And you have to kind of think from zero trust ground up with things like how to root of trust, attestation, measure, secure boot, etc. And then last but not least is just the scale. And any of these customers, they were not a telco, but they almost become like a telco when you deploy 10,000 of these nodes in 10,000 different distributed environments. You now have to think about automation and scalability and the ability to update and monitor and remediate problems at very large scale. So these are typically the three large things that we see our customers run into and sort of what we saw a driver for an orchestration architecture at the edge.
Great. Thank you so much, Saeed. That was very insightful. And you guys are kind of the bleeding edge of the edge. That's a funny statement. It just naturally happened. It didn't, I didn't make that up. That was so. Thank you so much for your time and your busy schedule to join us at in this session and share your insights. So
Thank you
and
for having me.
you're most welcome. So let me kind of switch in now to say, what is VMware doing about this? This is the market landscape. How have we come together and taken our portfolio and thought about taking our solutions, that are in the data center and the cloud towards the edge? Our vision is to build a consistent edge native platform along with a set of edge native application services. And our goal really here is, as we see this workload shift happen, we anticipate by 2025 that the workload distribution, which is the most important part. For the last decade, we've been saying that the workload distribution is going to go between private cloud and public cloud 50-50%. Now the trend to 2025 from internal analysis is that 30% of the workloads by 2025 will be in the private cloud, 40% in the public cloud, and then 30% at the edge. Now this is significant, workload movement shift, and that workload movement can happen, but it's not necessarily at the far edge. It'll also happen at the near edge, and I'll explain that. But VMware's goal is, how do we build the right underlay infrastructure, because those workloads could be placed anywhere from a private 5G, a telco environment to a POP. How do we give you a platform to place that and then secure those applications and provide compute services to them, and ultimately give you a platform to build these edge native applications by industry verticals, like just Saeed was saying. At the edge, these applications are very, workflow-wise, industry-specific. What you do in manufacturing is different to what you do in retail. So we have to actually think through these applications, because what you're doing in these applications, you're building IT and OT processes. IT process can be very standardized. It's like, here's the ticketing. I'm going to spin up a workload. I'm going to spin up resources. OT workloads are very industry-specific. So we have to actually create that environment so you can blend the two together. So what VMware is building, and is an edge infrastructure. We're used to doing just large data center like solutions, but we're thoughtfully putting together, and I'll share what we're announcing today, different t-shirt sizes of infrastructure. To Saeed's point earlier, we have to go smaller and smaller, as small as an embedded system. How do we have a portfolio that covers the breadth of the infrastructure? How do we then provide some underlay services, which are network infrastructure services? How do we provide some overlay services and application services that's built on top and let you manage all of that? So what we're doing is we're bringing all our portfolios together outside of the data center and public cloud and enabling our customers to build out that near edge. That near edge could be compute resources that could be sitting in a point of presence. That could be sitting in a telco's core environment, a telco's 5G environment, even their radio access network. So as a communication service providers, they actually have a good opportunity. As you enterprises look at modernizing and going towards the edge, you can look at the communication service providers as also, edge compute providers for you. And VMware platforms across our telco cloud platform enables that for telcos to provide you managed services, hosted services, but full edge compute services. And then at the far edge, which is really where, your on-prem sites working on different t-shirt sizes, we are, announcing today at VMworld an edge compute stack, which is available for virtual machines and containers, as well an option just for containers, and then without any virtual machines. So we understand that as Saeed was pointing out, there's still some really legacy applications that are there that not necessarily are modernized and containerized. So we have to give you platforms that are available for you to support both VMs and containers at the same time. So we're happy to announce today and launch VMware Edge Compute Stack, as you'd have heard in the general session announcement. We're announcing 3 editions of that, a standard edition, an advanced, and an enterprise edition, where you basically get compute for VMs and containers. You can get some storage that goes with that, as well as connectivity as you come in. And this can be available to enterprises directly, or telcos to buy it and manage it for enterprises. So we're making those available. So we see this ability to build out architectures where you have data center as well as edge. Lots of edge locations. One of the things that we're seeing is the number of locations at edge is not like a data center scale. You're lucky if you have a customers with 100, 200 data centers. That's not that likely. Whereas with the edge, there's tens of thousands of locations. So we have to be able to scale and manage this. So the offer that we have is build your applications, be it VMs and containers with vSphere and Tanzu, give edge specific HCI with vSAN, as well as then provide connectivity through SD-WAN functionality. And what we're seeing is tremendous traction, a lot of interesting use cases and industry verticals where these are being activated. And I'm showing the breadth of that, what's happening in the core, what's happening at the edge, what's happening at the endpoint, but from manufacturing to retail to healthcare to smart cities. But there's an interesting blend of more connected services as well as compute services that come together. Without kind of going into each one of these use cases, I'm just going to double click on a couple. I'm first going to start with a manufacturing environment where we're able to kind of build out a manufacturing platform on this, connect to all the devices, connect all the IoT solutions that we have, and then process that data at the same time. Provide upstream connectivity to all the multi-cloud services, build out a smart factory application store. So a lot of inferencing happens in the store. A lot of data gets collected. We're solving this for a customer in Europe where they are, looking for inferencing models that are local, but then this customer also has hundreds of factories all around the world. They can then take that digital blueprint and then share it through the cloud to all of their other manufacturing factories. So if they found efficiencies in the process, they can drive that efficiency inferencing models locally. They can connect to all types of data planes, IoT devices and all kinds of devices, as well as extend that through 5G environments to CBRS networks, consolidate all of that and run a full manufacturing platform. And then even though they're running in one factory and one edge, they can derive the benefits of that through a application factory store that we're delivering through Tanzu into the cloud. So that gets fast replicated in all their manufacturing plants. So this is kind of quite exciting where you do get efficiencies of local, but also able to replicate that globally pretty fast. So as manufacturing is going through this innovation of automation, one of the industry that has really changed over the last 15, 18 months, and we've all experienced this, has been retail and retailers. For that, I'm going to bring on Chaz from, who's our global retail solutions architect, who's been looking at retail for decades and helped our early customers do some of these adoptions. Welcome, Chaz.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Maneet.
Hey, how are retailers dealing with what's transformed the last 15, 18 months of a new set of ways to do socially disintermediated retail experiences, driving customers in a very unique way?
Thanks, Maneet. Yeah, as you said, it's been an interesting 18 months for retail, and the stores have been evolving rapidly. It's gone from point of sale and back office to and tech being partially there for processes to stores being digitally driven. I think there's three areas this slide shows well. It's how consumers are shopping, self-scanning experiences, being able to get in and out. Stores have become fulfillment centers as well with curbside collection. So a lot of new processes are going into stores that were traditionally there. And the last, as Saeed pointed out, was cameras and systems that were in there simply for review are now becoming critical for fraud and loss to impact margins. And once you have that in there, you can evolve it for customer experience, things like age verification, making it seamless and freeing up the employees to serve other customers. So there's a lot going on there, and it's driving a need for a platform.
Great. So that's great. Chaz, I guess from a VMware perspective, that's an interesting trend. How have we helped, right? I guess you've been involved in the very early deployments of our kind of edge solution for retailers. So that will be good to say, hey, yes, this market's changing, but what challenges did you face? What issues? What did we have, and how are we improving their lives through our solution?
Thanks, Maneet. I think the key thing to say, you've pointed out, the edge is not a data center. It's traditionally been very constrained. It's been constrained environmentally, and it's also been constrained cost-wise. So, a lot of retail is very margin constrained business. So there is this need to get a lot of technology into a place that has, as you've said, it's not a mirror of the cloud. So we've been working there, getting things like the footprint right, getting remote management right. And then I think a key area that VMware was built on was consolidation, but it's happening in two ways. In a good way, we're getting that sprawl again of all these technologies installed, but it pushes the need to consolidate into a single platform, because retailers, I've always been in awe of them for their operating model. If you can't keep it simple and you can't scale it, you can't get that innovation out across there. So we've been helping work, as you said before, putting the VMs and some of those older workloads together with containers, and supporting accelerated workloads into a single platform, so that we're kind of flipping it. Rather than the line of business coming up with an idea and then saying, can you scale it? VMware can help you build a platform that, as new use cases come on, they can all work together. And finally, as Saeed said, it's all about the data. So these systems don't stand alone, and they share the data amongst themselves. So yeah, there's a lot of work there, a lot of excitement with retailers. And as you said, a big uptick, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, where it's gone from a pilot or a proof or a nice to have to a must have. And these technologies are proving themselves not just in business terms as well.
Great. Thank you, Chaz. And I think, keep leading the way with some of our early wins in at the edge with retailers. Looking forward to your support as, we bring more and more of the global retailers onto our edge solution. So thank you. So I'm just going to summarize, why, the VMware Edge portfolio is starting to look attractive is, trying to summarize the whole session for you. Coming together is really about, we're able to provide truly that multi-cloud heterogeneity. If you think about it, people want to consume all types of services, don't want to rebuild them. So we're able to provide a truly heterogeneous platform, as you've heard from our other sessions, that we're truly bringing multi-cloud capability. The time to market agility is an important factor for us. So fundamentally, how do we kind of bring you that time to market agility? The consolidation, as just Chaz pointed out, our view is VMs and containers are same thing. So we'll give you a common platform to consolidate and processes to kind of build it out. Integrated operations is a huge deal. People are looking for lifecycle management in a very distributed way, zero touch provisioning from day one, because you don't have any IT skill sets in at the edge. So that is an important factor for us to consider. From a scale perspective, these are scales we have not ever faced. Neither have any hyperscalers, because now you're tens of thousands of locations. We're all very good at managing 100 data centers. Hyperscalers, maybe 100 hyperscale regional locations, not tens of thousands of edge locations. So we're all building together on that capability, on scale and flexibility. In security, as Saeed pointed out, this is tremendous amount of interest in security requirements, because it's not safe behind a data center. It's not safe behind a hyperscale location. It is ruggedized as people are walking around it. So there's a lot of exposure. So zero trust fundamentals become a huge thing. And finally, all the data requires contextual intelligence. You need to be able to process, and the data gravity is deciding where you put your compute nodes. So how do you provide contextual intelligence, and how make just-in-time decisions is driving all of this. So VMware is thinking through all of these and delivering it through our infrastructure and our services for edge native applications. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending the session, and don't forget to complete your surveys and and give us feedback. And if you're interested, go look up VMware Edge on VMware.com. Thank you very much, and thank you, Chaz and Saeed, for joining me in this session.